Welcome back. It's 23 past the hour, and you're listening to A Gang of Girls Radio. I'm your host, Donna D'Amato, along with Auriel Grace.
Yep. So we got this really cool lady.
Yes.
She's coming on tonight. And I met her. I got to meet her in person a couple times. I thought, wow, this lady's got really good energy. She's got, like, nice spirit guides and all that
You
stuff.
said she was sparkly.
Yeah, she was very sparkly. So this is her, like, little bragging rights. We're going to read them because I think it's really cool.
Okay.
You want to read them?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Donna's going to read them.
You start the first sentence.
Okay, so Dianne Bischoff James, I hope I'm saying this right. She's a life reboot expert, radio and TV personality, best-selling author, speaker, empowerment coach, and SAG actor. And she, like, wrote this awesome book, The Real
Brass Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dianne, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here tonight. This is exciting.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight.
So you had, like, this really cool reading from Sofia Kent.
Yeah, Sonia
That's
Choquette.
what-
Sonia
she's in
Choquette.
Chicago.
Or Sonia, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like,
She's in Illinois here.
yeah, she's in Illinois. She's like a biggie now.
That's one of the person's books that I could read.
Oh, okay. See, that's good.
Uh-huh.
We were talking about books that we could not read. So that's what, when I read that first, that's like on the first page, and that just turned everything around.
Oh, yeah. It was a life-altering event for sure. And the nice thing is she is in Chicago, and I was in the suburbs, and so I was able to see her when she was seeing people in her home. So that was quite the treat. It was a long time ago.
That's a long time ago, yeah.
but that was definitely one of those events that was a showstopper for me.
So, and it was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit over 10 years ago.
So
10 plus.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've been like the very busiest person that in the world then, if all of this has happened in 10 years. Because you redid, like after that reading, you like had a little nervous breakdown, and then you started redoing everything.
Yes, it was supposed to be a gift. I went there for my birthday, and someone like weirdly, two people had said in the same week, "Oh, you need to go see this woman," and she's just really awesome. And at that point, she had like a couple books out, but she didn't have. Now she has like 10 or more books that have become internationally known. And so I just went to see her a little bit as a fluke. I just thought, oh, that'd be kind of a fun birthday present. And so I signed up, and at the time it was pretty reasonable. Now it's pretty expensive to go, but she's definitely worth it. And I just went to see her for fun, and I sat in her office in Chicago in this beautiful Victorian house, actually, and I kind of thought, oh yeah, she was going to say that I was on track, everything was great. That I really was expecting a little bit of the
pat on the back.
Rah-rah.
Yeah.
Some praise. And because at the time I had, a successful business, and I was a marketing consultant. I had, 3 kids. I was married. I had a house not on the water side of the lake, but I could see. I was right on the other side, so I had a park,
you had a view,
I could see Lake Michigan. It was totally cool.
Oh yeah.
And I thought she was going to say, "Just keep going, girl. Just rock on." And
She didn't.
instead, she said, "Everything about my life was wrong." That none of the bulbs were firing. There wasn't a single bulb that was on track for my life purpose. That I had to take it down to the ground, and she took me down to my knees while she was saying this, because she didn't say it in a really nice way, actually. A little rough. It was a little rough. But she basically said, I was chronically depressed. She said I had an unfulfilling career, which was true, although it was successful. I was doing it to keep the wheels turning on the American dream. I wasn't doing it because I loved it. I was doing it because I was good at it. It was easy. Yeah. And I wanted the big house, and I wanted to keep it.
Yeah.
And so I kept doing that, and then she said, you're supposed to be this actor, author, teacher, healer, and she said, you got to start writing immediately because people are going to love your stories, and they're going to really be able to benefit from what you're going to, everything that you're going to write.
Right.
And I really kind of just looked at her, and I was mostly just staring in pure shock, and I didn't know what she was talking about because I've enjoyed writing, but I didn't really have a book in mind. It wasn't something that I was just dying to do. Right. And then, she said that I had this marriage that was loveless. I had no heart at all, which was my whole purpose. And, and she said, you better hurry up and grab at that real brass ring, or pretty soon it's going to be too late for you.
Ah.
And that became the name of the book.
I mean, what did you think during that reading? Did you think, I'm paying you for this? What? I mean, I would think some people would be like, wait a minute, that's not what I came here for.
That is what I was thinking. Well, I was thinking, how dare you?
Yeah.
And who are you? And I hate you. I mean, I was thinking all that kind of stuff. Kind of getting, worked up and emotional, but she was touching the topics that were, it's such a deep level that I also had to hold back tears because I felt like I had all this filthy laundry out there. Nobody knew how I felt in my marriage, and nobody knew the fact that, she's like, you're this helicopter mom, and you're just like circling around. And she, I think that little voice when I speak, because she does have kind of a little bit of a harshness with the way she says it. So I'm like,
she's direct.
She's like, yeah, and she's like, and you're just, you're doing this, and you're just spinning around, and she said, you're just you're overwhelmed with yourself, and you're overwhelming the kids, and you're just completely off track, and if you had a ladder to climb, you climbed the wrong ladder.
Oh, wow!
I was like, what do you say to that? I mean, you're like, go jump in the lake? I mean, that's
no kidding.
Say. So I was upset, and I said, well, okay, I just have one question, because she went on and on and on and on for an hour.
You're like, please stop
telling me these things. Yeah, and it didn't stop. It kept going on and on. And then I said, okay, can I put my hand up, like, can I ask you one thing? I said, what happens if I don't do it? What happens if I don't find my heart? What happens if none of this transpires? And she kind of spun around, and she looked at me, and she said, then you're going to have to come back and do it all over again. And then she kind of took off, and she left.
Wow.
Like, was I just warned? I mean, this was like one of those da-na-na-da, like it was in a movie, and it was a cliffhanger, and I'm looking around like, now what do I do? And so I went into my car, and I just cried. I really couldn't drive off. It was February. It was freezing. I cried to the point where I was wearing red gloves, and I completely soaked them, so I had like red stains on my face in addition to crying, and I was freezing because now I haven't even turned the car on because I didn't have enough wherewithal to do that, and I was just sitting here like, how do you redo a whole life? How do you redo everything? And I was also 190 pounds at the time, so she didn't call me out on that one, but I was also grossly overweight.
If you gave her time, she would have.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was kind enough not to not to point that out quite so directly.
So, what did you think about your friends that told you, you should go see her? Like, excuse me, do you like me?
I thought they were just, I don't know. I thought maybe they must have had a different experience.
Yeah.
I was thinking this is obviously an individual thing, so clearly I had messed up 40 years. 40 years of being here on this earth, I was a complete and utter, and all I could think of is that one big word, begins with an F, failure. I'm like,
well,
this girl's a failure. That's what I was thinking. So, and I didn't know how to respond. It took me a solid week of just kind of moping, and I felt like I was going through, the Kubler-Ross stages. There was anger, and then there was denial, and then I wanted to go and like yell at her, and then I wanted to be depressed and not get out of bed, and I did all that. I went through all those stages of how do you move forward from here, but at the same time knowing there was enough truth to it where I couldn't dismiss it. I couldn't dismiss anything that she said. So that was my lowest moment, probably one of the lowest moments in my life, where I got all of my nastiness and all my really, these were secrets. I never told anyone that I was depressed, and but I was taking Prozac every single solitary day. So clearly, I was depressed, and the doctor thought I was depressed. But I didn't really tell anybody. Not even my closest relationships knew I was taking antidepressants. And when someone finally calls you out on all that and makes you stand there kind of naked and take it, that's when I knew that, okay, something has to shift.
Yes.
And that was the biggest thing that happened to me.
So you think, like, if she was sugar-coated or nicer or something like that, you would have heard her? Do you know what I mean?
That's a really good question.
Or did
First of all, I don't think that's her style.
Yeah.
So it was probably good that I picked someone who was like that, because if I was going to get hit over the head, it probably was best that it was a 2x4.
Yes.
Instead of a little stick.
Yes.
I'm sensitive and I'm really good at listening and hearing, but at the same time, I wasn't sure how grave it was. And that was like a tall order. You know, if you had to take it down, it wasn't just move or change jobs or maybe you should start ballet classes. You know, it wasn't like that.
It was like
it was
change your whole life, open your heart, move along, little doggies.
Yeah, and like now, immediately, because you're about to mess everything up because it's going to be too late. And so that, I think the too late thing was the dun, 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 that was the one that really stuck with me. And that's the one that kind of moved this, it fueled the fire to make this not only a little shift, but an entire, everything she said, I had to handle, and I had to handle it like now.
Right
so
now.
That's what the whole book is about, all these shifts and changes without really knowing what to do or how to get any direction or even get any help.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that had to have been a little eek.
Definitely.
So, the law of attraction. What is your opinion of the law of attraction there? And how has it benefited your transition from being like a marketing professional to an actor and author and where you are today?
I would have to say that law of attraction has been maybe one of the most fundamental core paradigm shifts for me. Mm-hmm. It was I discovered it pretty fortunately very early on. This was before The Secret. This was before What the Bleep. This was before any of those kind of movies or books that come out that were trying to wake up the population.
Right.
She gave me a whole bunch of books. When I left, she said, okay, here's 10 books you've got to read. And I had already read, I just love the topic of metaphysics and philosophy. So I've been studying philosophy and reading these books on and off since Shirley MacLaine came out with Dancing in the Light.
Yeah.
I love that book. I mean, I was like a kid, and I was like secretly reading that under my bed covers with a flashlight because I didn't think anybody would understand why I'm reading this book by a woman who was clearly as old as my mom. And I just couldn't get enough because she was the first one to kind of bring all this to light.
Right.
And so what Sonia brought also to me is you've got to go check out these guys called Esther and Jerry Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're the four founding fathers of law of attraction. And they were traveling around weirdly. They were coming in a Winnebago. they were taking a Winnebago all over. This is how they started. They were going around the country with pamphlets. And they had 3 pamphlets. It was Law of Attraction, it was Deliberate Creation, and The Law of Allowing. And they were selling these literally, you could tell they were kind of like published from Kinko's kind of pamphlets, you know, and that was their book. And they were coming to these ballrooms and going to the Hilton and standing in a little conference room and trying to bring people to share this message. And I went to see them literally in a Hilton in, I think it was like Schaumburg or something. It was one of the suburbs. And there is this woman standing on the stage speaking in this kind of a weird old English accent saying, if you believe that it's your job to change the world so it can match up with what you think, then you are mistaken. Your job is to match up your vibration with your own energy, and therefore everything will reflect what it is that you are creating from inside. And that's kind of the synthesis. So what you think about, you bring about.
Right.
Yes.
Instead of get the big house, get the car, go to Aspen, buy a new Prada bag. It was completely the opposite of this this materialistic messages that we had been that had been shared with us since we were growing up. And she was the first one to say, at least I took it as, we are 100%, 200% responsible for what we create by looking at what is within. Right. And how it's being crafted from within. And so that was the aha moment after my down coming out of Sonia's office. That was my high, because I thought, I can do this.
Right.
I got
goodness.
it.
Thank goodness you went.
Turned on the light.
Yeah.
Shift the thoughts, shift the inside, and that's where this opened the door. It opened the door for all aspects of change, not only the physical change, but the body, the mind, the spirit, and then trying to craft a book out of. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to write about, but I knew I was supposed to write something. I thought it was a marketing book.
Yeah.
Right.
Seriously, I thought,
that's exciting.
I'll write about marketing processes and put another marketing book out there. And every time I sat down on my fingers kept writing about these stories, the stories of hurt and being afraid and change and how do you go through transformation, and all these juicy stories started coming out of the computer. And I thought, well, the marketing book will come soon, but first I almost felt like I was journaling. Let me just get this stuff out of my system.
Right.
And then 200 pages later, I've got a book.
But it's
about how to change, how to transform from the inside, so that the outside world can reflect what you love.
Yeah.
And so that's how that whole thing kind of crafted. That was just one of the many pieces.
And you used the word paradigm shift. Now, is paradigm
that's awesome.
The subconscious? Is that what you believe that to be as well?
Well, paradigms generally start as subconscious messages or ways, things that we've learned very often, as I'm sure we all know.
Yes.
In early childhood.
Yes.
We all have been told messages. We've learned by observation, and according to Piaget, one of the great masterminds of human development, basically we identified a long time ago that kids get everything in as fact.
Right.
Until almost the age of 12, 13. So if there were any messages that came in as, you're dumb, or you can't do this, or girls can't throw a ball, or whatever it might be, or you're fat, or whatever those messages are that we took in from our parents, or just that I'm unlovable, someone's not there for me, therefore I must not be lovable enough to be there. If I was lovable, they would be there, but they're not.
Right.
So we create messages not only from the external world, from authority figures, but I think also it's what we took those messages to mean about us.
Right.
And that's the core of the paradigm.
Right.
That's
and
awesome.
to shift that takes a bit.
It takes work.
It can be it takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work, and you have to really put your boots on and be willing to go through the ups and downs.
Yeah, because I remember my mom telling me, as a little girl, you're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing readings. Hey, and then and like when I first started doing readings and stuff like that, this is just an example. When I first started doing readings, I thought, you know what, I'm supposed to be not this because I'm never going to make any money doing this. And I kept saying it over and over to myself. It took me until like my 30s in order to break that belief.
Yeah.
So,
and so many people have that. If you are doing what you love, I'll be poor. There's something about doing what you love and the prosperity that very often is a huge paradigm disconnect.
Right.
Huge.
Right.
And so thank goodness you were able to work through that. I mean, that's just fantastic, because I think a lot of people, especially in more the healing arts and some creative arts, and typically, if you want to be an actor, you're going to be destitute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're going to be a starving actor.
You're going to be a starving actor, right.
Starving artist, that's
yes.
right.
Yay!
Well, I have, for me, I have one that's like on a positive note. So when I was younger, I was always told, you have the metabolism just like your father. My dad when it was always said he can eat whatever he wants, he never gains weight. So, on a positive paradigm, that's a good thing.
Right.
And I've pretty much been the same size my whole life because I believe I can eat what I want and I don't gain weight. I don't.
Absolutely.
So that's,
and that's something that they talk about quite a bit, actually, in very early books of Abraham Hicks. They talk quite a bit about that food is just energy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if we're just appreciating the food as it comes in as energetic bodies and just appreciate it and have your ice cream, have the snow cone, which I'm, or whatever you love to do, your dreamsicle, whatever it is, eat it, enjoy it, and it will not create an issue for you. It's when we have the guilt and the shame and all the excess about it and the fear about it that creates the weight gain, typically.
Uh-huh. So, talking about good things to eat, we hear, one of the ways that we check out people is we usually have chocolate here at Elevated Delights.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and, because, people bring us chocolate, and we'll bring in, a bag of chocolate, and it'll be gone, that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And it's only because, we love chocolate.
We love chocolate and cookies.
And cookies. Oh, my God. Chocolate and cookies. So, one of the ways we kind of check people out is we offer them chocolate.
If they say yes.
If they say yes, we're like, oh, okay, cool. If they say no, we're like, why?
Why?
We want to know why they don't, because it's got to be because we take our chocolate here very seriously.
We do.
Hey,
we do.
You are two ladies from my own heart.
Yes.
I am a chocoholic through and through. And I would be grabbing I'd be like, oh, how many can I take for now and how many for later? So
Well,
and depending on what it is, if it has coconut in it, and
it's
you give
gone.
it to Auriel, she's like, thank you, and she walks to the back of the room and hides it in her office. So Dianne,
I wrote that down. I took the note down. Macaroons.
Okay. Macaroons. Yes. So you manifested chocolates.
I know,
did,
and not only did you manifest chocolates, you manifested Godiva chocolates.
Ooh,
girlfriend, you need to share that story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not into the coconut part. I'm a little bit more into the darker, the richer.
Yeah.
If they're from France or Belgium type chocolates, and what happened is I started to clear my world, in that I was able to. I wanted to practice using law of attraction to see if I could bring things to me. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to start with something that was pretty easy, and I was having all these chocolate cravings.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I asked myself, what do you want? And I said, well, oh boy, I'd really like one of those gold medallion boxes of Godiva chocolates.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Truffles,
preferably all dark, but if they're not all dark and some milk, I'll live with it. But I said, okay, now I could go drive out to the mall and go get a box, but I'm like, no. I'm going to see what is it going to take to actually bring this to me. And so I kind of went out. I got very clear and specific. Okay, I wanted a big box, not a small box. Not a 4-piece.
Yeah.
But I wanted, at least 12, and I wanted to have it mostly dark chocolates. I like, certain types, and I really got really clear about it. I went out into my backyard, kind of like a crazy person, and I kind of looked up into the sky, and I'm like, I want to attract this box of chocolates, and I would prefer it to be Godiva. It's got to be really good, or at least from Europe or something like that, but this is what I want. And then I went in and I found a little picture of chocolates from a magazine, and I, at the time, get this, I had a day timer, remember, before we had the smartphones?
Yeah.
And I taped it into my day timer so there would just be a little reminder for me, and then I just let it go. And I said, I'm not going to buy it. I want it to come to me.
Yeah.
And I let it go and kind of stopped thinking about it, didn't do any kind of weird obsession. And I was one day at home working in my office, and the doorbell rang. And this was about 2 weeks later. And I go to the door, and there's, the FedEx guy, and he hands me this box. And he said, you have a delivery. I'm like, oh, thanks. And I looked at it, and I didn't recognize it. It was the company. I looked at it, and it said it was from a bank. And I'm like, okay, that's really weird. I open the box, and honest to God, it's a box of Godiva, 50% dark, There were a few milk chocolates in there, but there is this beautiful gold box of Godiva chocolates with about 20 pieces of chocolate in it.
Yeah.
And I thought, are you kidding me? How did this get delivered? I'm thinking, oh my God, who sent this to me? Because I hadn't told anybody about it. It wasn't like I was seeing if my fiance would remember me or anything. I didn't pitch it anywhere. I just wanted to see if it could be provided. And I'm looking all over the box. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's from a bank. This bank sent it to me, and I'm like, oh, darn it. It's not for me, because I looked at the label, and it said it was for someone named Diana Divine. I'm not kidding. So it was kind of like my first name, but it had the word divine after it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is a box of chocolates for another woman.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, okay, do I do the right thing? And I thought, yes, you have to do the right thing. So I called the number on the box, because they always have the phone numbers, and I called this bank, and the bank, a very lovely woman, answered, and I said, I think I got a box of chocolates that were for another woman. And she said, what's your name? I said, my name is Dianne. She goes, Dianne, enjoy your box of chocolates. We're going to send Miss Divine another box. We obviously have the wrong address, because they used to live in your house.
Oh, they used to live in your house. Oh, my goodness.
They used to live in our house, and I didn't know their names because they were previous owners of the house, and they were banking clients of this bank.
Oh, wow.
And I just threw up my hands, and I'm like, score! And there's this box of chocolate, and it was mine, and it was free, and it showed up, and it was beautiful. It was like the perfect manifestation, and I was really doing the happy dance. I did the happy dance for like a whole week, because I was sitting there having my chocolate every day, and they were delicious. And so I started with a box of chocolates, just trying to see how I could bring, they say that our manifestations come through. The concept is kind of like there's this black hole, and we get to put in our request into the black hole, be very clear, very specific, and then send your energy through it, and then just wait and see how the universe will provide.
Right.
And sometimes there's a little twist. It's not always exactly what you say.
Right.
Yep.
Because others are feeding into that that manifestation system at the same time. So if other people are influencing, twisting, turning a little bit, or maybe there's a better outcome for you, that's what usually will circle back to you. So that's what I was practicing with, and I did it not only with Godiva, but I also went after because I got so happy with the Godiva, I went after a box of Fannie Mae's.
Oh, see, there you go.
And did those come along too?
The colonial assortment. I was very clear about that.
And how long did that take to get?
It took that one took about 3 or 4 weeks, because someone showed up with a box of colonial assortment. A friend I had not seen in years, came in from college, said she wanted to see me, showed up before the holidays, and had a giant box of chocolates and handed it to me. And I looked at her and I just started laughing. I'm like, no, seriously. And she goes, yeah, I brought you chocolates. I'm like, so I just ran out of my Godivas. So I was munching away there for a while. That was pretty good. So I was very happy with that. That was really kind of a fun little. It was like a game. It was a game, and it was so much fun. So I truly encourage you to play that game. But you got to be light about it, light and fun. You kind of let the air flow through it, and whatever shows up, shows up.
That's right. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, we align with that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Macaroons noted.
Exactly. Because I was looking for them at the store today, and they didn't have them.
Yeah. Yeah, so see, that's what, we often do that. Sometimes on Facebook, I'll even put on Facebook, on my profile page, I want a cookie.
Yep, and it shows up.
And then the cookies show up.
See? And now you have social to help with your black hole.
That's right.
So
it has happened.
And I encourage, it can happen not just with food. It goes beyond the food category.
Yes, it does.
Can go into anything that you're looking for. My daughter's looking, just graduated from college. We use the same kind of practices. We get really clear and specific. We write everything down, and then keep sending it through, and she's like, I've got to be downtown, and this is the street I would prefer. I'm like, you go for it. Be as clear as you can, and then be slightly flexible.
Yes.
Yeah.
It may not be on Madison, maybe on Monroe.
Right.
Chill out about some of the details.
Right. I know. Just this past week, Todd manifested. Well, actually, it was like in the past 6 months. He manifested a car.
Yeah.
And it was like it came to him freely, easily, and effortlessly. It was awesome. And then, like, I'm not really even sure how all of this happened because it's like kind of a flurry of energy. But now he has a better car. Like, he got it within 24 hours. He just made a decision. He made his intention with that decision. And now he has an even better car that is like, all you have to do is push a button and it starts. I think it's so cool.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, one car is
fabulous.
Great. 2 cars is what we call magnificent. So I always say TYU, thank you, universe.
Yeah.
So, and he got like a great deal, and he was just like, still, I got a great deal. So it was pretty awesome.
Incredible.
But he just opened himself up for that, and it happened.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so cool.
Absolutely. And I always say one of the key investments is piece there is your investment, because it does require, I mean, although some things come completely without doing anything, just
Right.
practicing with the candy.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
a lot of times I encourage a lot of clients, the clients I work with for empowerment, about what is your investment. Because I think one of the paradigms, tying it back, is that if we don't think we deserve it,
Right.
we're not going to get it.
Right.
But
Exactly.
oftentimes we can overcome that with our own personal investment. So if you are looking for a job, or if you're looking for a new career, or you do want to find a house, or whatever it might be, it's about making that clear investment. What does that mean to you? Oh, I got to send 5 letters out a day. I have to have a couple of interviews with qualified people. So really look at your investment towards it as well, because I think that accelerates the process in a
Yes.
huge way.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I used to create events, and then there would be some readers at the events, and they would be like, "Oh, well, Spirit told me to be here." Okay. What'd you do to let other people know that you were going to be here besides Spirit?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Okay.
So we have our guest Dianne Bischoff, and during the break we were talking about Porsches, and I've been manifesting a Porsche. We were talking about manifesting, so I've been saying I want a Porsche freely, easily, and effortlessly.
Yep.
And if you notice, as soon as you make your intentions, the universe starts putting that in front of you. This one? How about this one? How about this one?
Right.
So I'm like, no. Yes, that model, but yellow.
Right.
But I kept seeing, Porsches. Yes, that model, yellow. And finally, I saw it in yellow. I had my daughter with me, and I said, "There's my car, Abby." Most of you know my daughter, and she's a manifester as well. I go, "There's my car. Do you align with me having that car?" "Yes, I do." I said, "Woohoo!"
Well, see, we have an intention circle here once a month.
We do.
We do. And so when peeps say their intentions and their gratitudes and stuff, after they say it, each person, after they say it, we're like, woohoo, waka, waka, waka.
Mm-hmm.
Add
energy to it.
Add energy to it to throw it out to the universe. And in our intention circle, a lot of really cool things have happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
And set your intentions. Start seeing
Yeah.
what can happen. And me and Dianne, we were talking about how we're both kind of a lead foot. And she's asked me how do I
She
get
is.
True.
She asked how do I get away with it, and I said, well, I have a cloaking device on my car. I drive by police at 82 miles an hour all the time, and they don't turn their siren on to come and get me.
So it's all good.
Yeah. And you were saying you have something like that yourself?
Yes, to the point where I've actually had someone use the loudspeaker while going on the freeway next to me that I didn't realize.
Oh, my God.
Lady, slow down. And I thought, is it God? Is somebody talking to me while I'm driving in something? But no, it was an undercover car that didn't stop me, just gave me the verbal warning.
Slow
And I
down.
thought, okay, this could only happen to me because somehow we are both cloaked, and we have some special magic. We must have done something right in the past because, I am very fortunate. I'm a very safe driver, but I'm a little speedy, and it's been great. I never get pulled over.
Yeah. Well, and when I did get pulled over, I was pulled over by the state cop in Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. And it was in the evening time, and, I was driving, Chicago-style driving down there, and I was going to miss my turnoff, so I sped up really fast and got over and went 3 lanes over because I was in the wrong lane. My GPS was telling me wrong. So I got over. There goes the sirens. There goes the lights. I'm like, aw. I knew I was speeding, but I'm like, come on, really, guys? I'm supposed to be cloaked. So I pulled over. I'd stick my hands out the window because it's nighttime. They got to make sure I don't have a gun or something, I guess. I stick my hands out the window. He comes up. Do you realize da-da-da-da-da? I'm like, oh, it wasn't even about speeding. It was just about how I was driving like a jerk. You're supposed to keep 200 feet, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if they have that law in Illinois. And I'm thinking, I don't know either. We probably do. I don't know. So he does whatever he does. He goes back to his car. He comes back and gives me my license, and he goes walking back to his car. And I'm like, are you letting me go? Oh, I just got a call. I've got something more important I got to go to. Drive safe. So I didn't get a ticket. I surely.
Waka,
I know.
Right?
It should have been speeding, improper lane usage, driving like a jerk. All kinds of stuff. So there was a full moon that night too. I just looked at the moon and like you, and I said, "Thank you."
I figure it's some kind of pass. I must have some kind of get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
And but safe, but yes. a little quick.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's okay. I think as long as within reason.
I know. As soon as he was gone, I hit the gas and flew on out of there. I did. I was in a hurry. I can't help it. It's a funny show. What can you say?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about The Real Brass Ring, your book.
Yes, we're actually going to talk about it now.
Yeah. Which manifesting was a big part of it, though.
It was. It was a huge part of it. It was very fun to read those manifesting parts that because you really did. You put it in your mind. In this book, you put it in your mind and you said, okay, this is it. Boom.
Yeah.
And you flew with it.
Yeah. It's like a chemistry lab. And I used to think of it almost like, like you have your Bunsen burner, and then you have your beaker, and then you have this little piece of this, a little piece of that. And when you put it all together and turn the heat at a different level of intensity, it seems to come up with whatever this game that you're playing, kind of the chemistry lab playing a little game, whatever comes back will be like a different metal or something from the period.
Right.
And
right.
So that's what was kind of fun. Didn't know exactly when, didn't know the exact form, but I was able to once create enough money because I wanted to, get the big house. I was able to create enough within 6 months within a penny of exactly what I said I wanted to have in the bank.
Yeah.
And it was just because that it was turned on. The fire was up and it was turned on, and I was doing my part, taking care of my part of that as well. And it does work. It works like a charm, especially if you keep all those intentions positive and and this is the trick, you can have it.
Right.
Right, exactly.
That is a trick. Now, this question though is something when I was reading it, it was pretty it stood out. And the reason why is because we have a lot of clients and they have this issue. So you call your story a midlife reboot. Can you expand more on what a prisoner of promise is?
Yes. Prisoner of Promise, to me, I always think back to that really old commercial. I'm dating myself, but it said, yes, it says, you can bring home the bacon. This is what they were appealing to women. This was, 70s,
I know that
80s,
commercial.
and it ran forever. It ran for like 10 years. It says, you can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never ever let him forget he's a man.
Right.
You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, which means the woman has to not only go out and make the money, make sure the house is taken care of, food's on the table, everything's ready to go, and make sure your guy's happy.
That's right.
And I used to really thought, okay, we're the generation that's breaking that glass ceiling.
Right.
We're going to go out in the workforce, and we're going to get the big house, and we're going to have all of the stuff that's lined up in that little list. And I always of course, let's think of the Kardashians for like 1 second.
Done.
They can't just get engaged. They have to get a stadium with a party that fills a stadium to get engaged.
Right.
I mean, that's the level of insanity I think we've gone to with this promise. The promise is that I'm going to have massive possessions. I'm going to have billions and billions of dollars, the American dream of hope, and the happy, perfect children, and then the latest whatever in technology, because that changes every single solitary year, and keep this thing up.
Right.
And it occurred to me that level of richness was completely hollow, empty, dark, dirty. I didn't want any part of it.
Yeah.
I wanted the level of richness that had to do with heart and being happy and finding joy and having kids that are successful and feel good about themselves. How about we feel good about ourselves for a minute?
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, the promise of what we were going to get by going down these roads with what we were supposed to do versus what truly makes us happy, you know, being a reader versus being a lawyer.
Right.
Perfect example. You know, I was told I was told that you could be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer, and those were the 4 careers that were going to make me happy.
Right.
And it was like, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, and no thank you. So I thought I was a big, you know, I'm not going to do that. So I became a marketing consultant who works with engineering companies. I had to keep my one toe in the pot because I figured somehow deep down, oh, my father will disapprove of me if I don't stick with one of these core traditional careers.
Right.
And so I did it. I mean, I did what they told me to do, every single solitary thing. And it was so empty. It was that, you know, it was the house of straws. It just wasn't what they said. And of course, you know, in the marriage too, not only do you have to get married, but you're going to stay there forever.
Right.
No matter what. Right? No matter what, no matter what happens, no matter how you feel, whether you're going to grow and your partner doesn't grow, whether you're going to, you know, find that this is resonating with your heart or not. So when Sonia said, you have to find your heart in this lifetime, it's one of your key lessons.
Yes.
And I didn't even know what she was talking about. I was like, heart? What's that?
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't feeling any of that stuff. I've always thought of it like, you know, the little heart that on Snow White that knight brings, and he has this heart in a box, and he goes, I have her heart, queen, oh evil queen.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's my heart. It's the heart in the box that nobody can see. Because I didn't feel it. There was no experience of it whatsoever. Yeah. And it wasn't until she called that one out too that I realized again that was the promise. The promise was what you did when you were when 20 meant that when you're 40 you're going to feel exactly the same way about it. And for me, that just wasn't how I felt. And so I had to take all of those concepts, those initial promises, and trash them and start over and really go back to what I like to call the love it inventory. You know, what do you love to do? You know, talking about the yellow Porsche.
Yeah.
Donna, I can totally hear it in your voice. Your voice changes. Your light goes on. You get all excited. You know, and so when we talk about those things that we love, it just changes the energy in visually. You can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it. And so I really got back to those core important, I call it, you know, again, this inventory, wrote down absolutely everything I love to do. And one of them was acting. And that's how I got back into it. I was told that if you're going to be an actor, that is a horrible career.
Right.
It'll never be successful. It'll never work out. And so I literally put it away. I put it in some kind of box, locked it up, and didn't pursue it, even though I loved it in high school, musical superstar, and that whole thing. Put the whole thing away because I figure I can't have it. I was told I can't have it, so I won't. And so when I had to go back, and she said, you're going to be an actor, and I get to tell you, it's going to be well received. You get to give that a shot and enjoy it and have a career in it. I really thought she was kind of like, you know, out to lunch on that one. But when it showed up on my list, love to act, love to perform, love to, you know, dance around on stage and do all those crazy things, I thought, okay, that's it. I've got to do it. She said, I can do it. I can do it. Even though I was 190 pounds, I was going to go back to be an actor. And all the messages start playing, those tapes. Oh, actors are skinny. Mm-hmm. Actors are probably talented. And probably experienced. And I thought, okay, I was not thin at the time. I had not done any acting since high school, or just a tiny, tiny bit in college, but that was it. And I had no clue whether I could pull this off or not. I really didn't. I knew I loved it, but I didn't know if I could do it. And I said, I was like, okay, I let that swirl around, and then I'm like, I broke it, and I'm like, get rid of it. I don't want to hear another one of those things. I'm going to do this. I'm wide open. I'm ready to show up. So I cinched myself up so I'd be as small as possible, literally, with a corset, and covered everything up with big flowing skirts. And I showed up for the one thing it was, again, my birthday. It was a year after I'd seen Sonia, and I showed up for this audition, and it was for Oliver.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm just going to go.
That's
you
great.
Can't stop me.
You're 24.7 The Stream. We are chatting with Dianne Bischoff James, author of The Real Brass Ring, and we are talking about you were trying out for a show, going back into acting, and you're just going to do it anyhow.
Yeah, you put a corset on. Yikes!
I did. I had to do something to make me feel a little better. I was 40, and I was auditioning for my first show in over 20 years, and decided not to let any of those dark negative messages that were kind of seeping in. I decided to not let them rule my world. So I show up in a corset, boots, and like this kind of fluffy skirt, because I was at the time still really overweight. And I show up in front of this table of auditors, and there's about 4 people, and then you have the guy playing the piano in the corner, and they say, "Sing me a song." And so I thought, okay, this is a nightmare. I hadn't really had any training. I had not sung in 20 years, and it was all I could think of. The only song I knew is "Wouldn't It Be Loverly," because it was like the only song that I knew from a musical. Uh-huh. And I start squeaking out the worst, most horrible, pitchy, that kind of thing where if they're looking at you like on The Voice or anything, they would never have turned their chair around. Or Simon Cowell will give you that like, "Please do not quit your day job" kind of thing. Uh-huh. So I was so nervous. First time in my life, my hands were shaking so badly I had to pin them behind my back because I couldn't control the nerves. But I just spit it out, finished it, and then they were going to I thought, okay, I was going to go to the door. I'm like, that's it. Thanks, guys. And I'm like, thanks for your time. And I was going to walk out, and the director stands up. She goes, "Well, will you read for us?" And I said, "Sure." And she goes, "Will you read for the part of Nancy?" Which, as we know, is a lead of Oliver. She's the one who's, kind of tries to save Oliver and everything. And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll read. And so I took the paper, and all of a sudden this weird Cockney accent came over me, and I started doing this little, "Oh, Oliver, and, how would you like your bread?" And, I'm like, "Would you like some gruel?" And, this whole thing. And I did this whole little scene. And she said, "Thank you very much." She literally stood up and walked me to the door, and I thought, okay, this woman wants me out of here. But it didn't matter. I went to my car, again, another snowy day in February, and I started jumping up and down doing a happy dance because I had the courage to show up. I didn't run out. I let the process just happen, and I said, "Universe, I want a part." Yeah. And especially if the part's Nancy. And so I thought, you know what? I show up. I'm good. You guys, you do your job now. I did my job. And so I waited, and then I waited like a day, and then I waited like the second day, and like by the third day I thought, okay, obviously this did not work out. These people do not like me. This is, I started getting some of those doubts coming in. But I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. If this doesn't work out, I will be better trained next time, and I will go for another opportunity. And right when I surrendered to the process, and I became light, what do you think happened?
The phone rang.
The phone rang. Exactly. Auriel, you were there. And I took that phone call, and I'm like, "Hello?" And they're like, "Dianne?" I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "Well, we'd like to offer you a part." And I'm like, "Oh, my gosh, yes." I go, "Yeah." And they're like, "We'd like to offer you townsperson 1."
That's awesome.
Woo!
Yay.
I was so happy. I said, "Yes, absolutely." I didn't even have a name.
Nope.
I was just one of the townsperson. I had one line. I said, I was something like, can I get you a beer? I had like one little line in the play, but I danced on stage up and down these steps. I had, again, a corset on for the thing. I had boots on, and I lost 30 pounds doing that play, and that was the first start of the weight loss. And it was purely because it was so much fun. It was so enjoyable. It broke me into the market where I was so convinced I couldn't get into it. And it was just a hoot, and it was like 90 days of practicing. They just practiced forever with community theater. And every time I went out to practice, I was doing more jumping around, so the weight just fell off. And so the nice thing is it didn't even take, that initial part took almost no work. It was purely about being in love with what I was doing. And that's where the whole thing started. And now I'm SAG now, and I do anywhere 2 to like 10 movies a year. And it's just become an incredibly fun journey, knowing that I get to show up and do what I love to do and play and take on these roles. And so it's been an absolute complete joy to add that into my life.
That's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
See, everybody, when you're doing stuff that your heart loves, you know, everything just falls together.
It does.
Exactly.
It does. Easy diet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially jumping up and down on stage
Yes.
with a bunch of crazy people for 90 days. That helps too.
That helps too. So I know you mentioned the Hoffman Institute.
Yeah.
So can you talk about what that is and how it helped you?
Yes. Part of what we were talking about earlier, you know, those messages that got stuck when we were young from, you know, we talk about the fact that we're all imprinted, and when we're young, we're hearing things that come in as fact, even though they're not fact. It's just somebody had a bad day and they were yelling, and the kids suck all this energy up. Well, Hoffman I had so many dark messages. The way I look at it is, if there's like carry-on or a steamer trunk full of darkness inside, I had the steamer trunk.
Yeah.
And so even though I was able to realize I needed to think differently and practice manifestation and start practicing with all these arts of creating what we want, I still had darkness. I was very, very, very depressed. And so I knew that I needed to go get help. So Sonia had said at the time during my reading, she said, you need to go to Hoffman Institute immediately and go. Don't look back. You know, don't pass go.
Right.
Don't collect your $200 or whatever. $100. No, I've inflated it to 200. Yeah. And you know, go. And it's this place in California, and over 100,000 people have gone. They're not only in California, they're in the East Coast, and then they're in tons of different countries all over the world. And what they do is, for 7 days, you emotionally get to completely reboot yourself. So any of those messages that came from mother or father or any authority figure that came in that are not really you, that got lodged in there, they get rid of. And so you work in a super intense level, and it is something where you come out and you're like a bouncing baby soul. It's as if you became this. You know how little kids are just doing whatever, and you ever watch them on the beach, and they're just playing, and they're running, and they're putting sand in their mouth, and then they're kicking their feet up, and they're smiling, and that kind of freshness is what you come back with. And the nice thing is about it, we're one of the only places that has been proven with scientific study. They also have participated in studies with Harvard, and they have a lot of strong institutions behind them. They have shown that they have a permanent improvement in self-esteem, life perspective, and an overall rating of self-reported happiness. And so I went and came back a different person, and it's at hoffmaninstitute.org. And for anyone who feels like they have a sadness inside that is going to be very hard to overcome just with shifting your own thoughts and ideas, this is a great way. It gets it out of your system for good. And just any kind of person with a very traumatic upbringing in particular, it is the best way to come back and start fresh. And it lasts forever. It's not something that ties you in. If you don't want to be involved later, you don't have to be involved. It's a very quiet organization, and it doesn't try to recruit or do any of some of the stuff that some of the other ones that are a little over the top on trying to keep people involved too long. This is at will, at your desire. You get to be involved. Yeah. So it's a fabulous place.
That's cool. That's cool that you gave that info, because there's probably a lot of people that would need to like break it down and move it out in 14 days. That's pretty awesome.
It's like having 10 years of therapy, couch therapy. It's like it takes care of what you could do maybe 10 years with even a licensed qualified therapist. It takes only 7 days and it's out for good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like going, wow.
Yeah.
When can I get out there?
So,
and it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to the Hoffman Institute. You decided to start you were journaling. That's how you really started writing the book, is through your journaling. And that's what you called it even in the book. I had to go downstairs between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm journaling. I'm like, yeah, huh.
It's because Sonia said it was about the stories. And so I started writing about these stories of how incredibly, how disjointed in a way and how jagged the path is. The path, it would seem so easy if someone said, oh, your entire life is messed up, why don't you just fix it? It would be so easy if we go, okay, step 1, you do this, step 2, you do that, and there was any kind of linear process. But since there was no linear process, this was about how, and I look at always in the quadrant, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical quadrant, and I came up with these 14 rules they're the shortcuts for happy living.
Yes, the shortcuts for happy living. I love that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and what happened is I was having all these. I had read almost every book known to man. I've been a self-help junkie since I was born, and so I thought, what if I had to boil this down? Well, what would it look like if I was going to synthesize the important ways to shift your life and the easy way to shift your life? And so I wrote down. I started with 12. I had these 12 shortcuts, and I started looking at the shortcuts and then using them in my life. And I found that these shortcuts for happy living is what made my life start to change. Physically lost, 65 pounds now, started in the acting career and then moved that forward, started writing by just letting whatever poured out on the page pour out. And then it turned into a book that encompassed not only the educational piece, which is the shortcuts for happy living, but also I have so many fabulous thought leaders that I have encountered not only in person, but have met. And so I put in a lot of their work as well. So I'm able to compile the work of other people and kind of synthesize it in a way so that it's easy to understand and easy to use. Mm-hmm. And then also added in all these like crazy dramatic stories about oh my gosh, becoming, a cougar dater. And
you did. Yeah. That was really cute, though.
Yeah. And what do you do if you have to start over at 40? Where do you go when you're sitting in the suburbs by yourself and you have 3 kids and a big house across from the lake? How do you re-engage from there? And so I started writing all these soap opera-like stories down and made it part educational, but also hopefully encouraging and exciting enough where it's a little bit also about an inner glimpse into this chaotic life and how to shift using these examples. Right. So that's how the whole thing kind of came about. It was not, I would like to say it was well planned.
No.
That would not be true. It was very organic. But at the same time, I felt like my soul's path was to help others by sharing these stories. Not only did Sonia say that, but I was like, I finally get it. Some of the rules, and if you don't mind, I'll just share one of them. One of them is about leveraging your alignment. And what I noticed is like if there's a straight line, I like to draw it like at nose level and it straight across. We're beings of light, and light moves in waves. And so what we're able to do when we're in alignment is that wave moves a little bit above the line, a little bit below. You have a great day, something fabulous happens, and you're all happy. And then there's a day where like a couple things go wrong, and it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it, and it goes down a little bit. But this wave moves at a really nice, easy pace. And so what I've started to look at is this energy wave and how to manage it, how to use it, and then how to stay as a nice, peaceful wave on this line instead of going all fiery and crazy, either with anger or resentment or I can't believe I got stuck with that stuff or I hate this job, or the dark side of it, which is the really sad, depressed part. And so how do we get out of those two key categories where it's fired in a negative way, or that we're in the part where, we really can't function well as happy human beings? And so one of the things about really looking at your own alignment and recognizing that we have complete and utter control over what you respond to.
And that,
is how you respond.
Yes.
And the trick to that is when you're in a situation, and we all know, I think we've all had that, like, wow, I can't believe 3 wonderful things happened today, and then the next day you're like, oh, great, the dog just, I stepped in the dog poop, literally. The other day, I didn't have my glasses on, I went to go get, and I stepped in something, and to let the dog out, I'm like, oh, great, first thing in the morning, I'm hopping with one foot over to the sink to rinse off my foot, and I thought, well, that's a beautiful way to start today. The dog had an accident, and I happened to step in it completely. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, you can't let that get to you. So you reach for the thought that feels better. So I thought, well, the good news is I have one foot that works. I can get to the sink. I can get this thing cleaned up. And obviously the poor thing's having a problem, so I can take care of the animal, too, make sure he's okay. So, you can always make that little shift in thinking so that you can stay on this nice, healthy path. And so that's just one example of how I think all the book kind of really shifted and molded itself. So there's a lot of education to it as well.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of people have, a lot of my friends that I have met over my life, they're like, how do you stay on that even keel? How do you do that? Well, I'm not always on the even keel. Sometimes I explode. Yep. But I do like to stay on that even keel and not internalize a lot of stuff, because when you internalize a lot of stuff, it's in there and it stays, but if we can move it out and get it out of our energy field so that we can stay on that nice wave. I agree with you. And I agree, you have to feel your feelings. So part of it is really paying attention to your emotions and letting them have their space. Yeah.
Well, I tell that to a lot of people as well, because they believe or think that because they're on a spiritual path, they can't be angry.
Angry or frustrated or...
Angry or,
whatever.
Just angry. They can't, have a fit and be angry. It's like, no, have a fit. Don't suppress it. Don't hold it in.
Right.
Make it an appropriate time. Maybe when the kids are not home, have a fit, yell, scream, play loud music, whatever you have to do, and then be done with it.
Yes.
Don't stay in it. You say, this is what I'm going to do, and when I'm done, I'm done.
Right.
Make yourself some rules about it.
Yeah, I tell people, hey, go to the thrift store. If you have to buy glass, get some glass. Do it in your garage, pre-plan it, have a broom and dustpan ready. When you're done, you're going to feel so much better after you jump up and down and throw things.
Yep.
I think that's great. If I could add to that, one thing that I love to do, I love to call out. And I do it without actually, well, sometimes my voice is a little raised, but I will actually call out my anger in the moment. And I'll say, that really made me angry. And then what I do when I got kind of good at being able to pick out why, because that's triggering me on the fact that, let's say I clean the whole house because I have kids. I walk in and I'll be out to the store and it's trashed.
Oh, yeah. We know about that.
Oh, yeah, in 1 hour.
You know this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, what a waste. And then, so I'll say, it made me angry that you literally kicked your shoes all over, trashed this in literally less than 30 seconds. I come back, and what bothers me is that you're not contributing. I know that that's my button. I really have a trigger on that button. And so we kind of talk it out, play it out. And the funny thing is that tense tone that comes out, like, that made me angry. And I'm like, how do we... And then you move, the trick is to move to, okay, what can we do to work this out together? Because... it annoyed me, and this happened, now what are we going to do? And then it's funny how I've noticed I get very quick responsiveness when I'm calling it out in the moment, and it doesn't have to be a big deal all the time. It can be handled within that short framework, and we're back to cool. It's totally back to cool. But you have to let it be expressed. That spiritual bypass thing, I don't know where we where we came up with that.
I don't know either.
'Cause I'm spiritual. I have to bypass all emotions.
I have to be positive thinking all the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't think
Not
I could
true.
do that. Yeah, you can.
We are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Exactly.
We're still
But I
on
love
the
the
planet.
glass
We're
thing. I have
human
not
beings.
tried that.
The glassing works.
Yeah. Because then
I
when
gotta
you
find a safe place for that now. Where can I go and break glass?
and then when you sweep it up and throw it away, you're done.
Yep. See how you're sweeping it all up, you throw it away, you're done. So you're done with your fit.
I like that. I really do.
Yeah.
I can see myself throwing a couple plates here and there.
Yeah.
Occasionally,
Yeah.
Yep.
You just go to Goodwill, get them
Just
cheap for a quarter.
Yep. Just go to Goodwill.
Don't break your own plates.
Yeah, don't break your own plates.
No, don't break your own
Or
stuff.
get the kind that aren't breakable, and you could throw those around for a while, because I had non-breakable plates for a while, and at first it was really frustrating because I couldn't break them. But they
It might make me madder.
Yeah.
but they stuck in the wall pretty good. So, hey.
Like a Chinese star.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So
And you wrote your book based on your life story, how you went and had a reading with the local here in Chicago, Sonia Choquette, and she told you everything you're doing was wrong. So you had to reinvent yourself and reinvent your life.
in 10 years.
In 10 years.
Yeah.
And
That's
so do you, I know like you're a personal coach, so is this what you help people do as well?
Yes. I call it empowerment coaching because a lot of the clients that I have had the wonderful good fortune of working with have different challenge. Everyone has different areas, obviously, in which they're trying to reboot.
Yes.
Sometimes it's career. Sometimes it's people who are either dealing with weight or have body issues, or sometimes physical issues that need to be rebooted.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's loving relationships and they're kind of starting over. And sometimes it's just about family, how to create more unity and peace and try to create a stronger family unit. And those are just some of the topics that we're able to work with. And each and every one of those can be rebooted. We look at I have a process that has been so very, very, very successful, and it's called, the first part of it is about get clear. Really get in touch with your soul, get in touch with the purpose. The soul cannot invest in compromises. And so many people have invested in things that feel like a compromise.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you just can't move forward until you get super clear on what it is that you're here to do, what's going to make you soar, make you happy, and then what we do is we get going. The whole second piece of the coaching is to get going. So once we're super, super clear and we get some blocks out of the way, talk a little bit like we have a lot of really great techniques for getting those, anything that's keeping you stuck,
Right.
very often can be shifted with some simple techniques. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to go away for 7 days to get all that fixed, but you can use some very simple techniques that get your awareness up, gets the blocks out of the way, and then what we do is we get going and we get happy. And what's so delightfully wonderful is to hear back. I like to schedule it out over X number of weeks. So there's maybe 4 to 6 weeks in between. And then as you're moving forward and crafting your life, the empowerment coaching is there for you. So 6 weeks later, this is improved, some things got triggered, some things need to be tweaked, and we work together. And so that's what's been just an absolute delightful experience, is to work with so many people and watch them shift, hear the changes, and see so many people get happy. And it's been really fun. So the empowerment coaching is something that I'm doing full time now.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and also doing quite a few workshops. So
yeah, we were going to ask you about that.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd like to share one that's coming up. I'm part of the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo that's going to be in Skokie. It's August 16th. I have a workshop from 4 to 6, and it's Life Reboot Level 1, and that goes through all the getting clear part. It's 2 hours, and it's extremely, extremely intense. and very, very, very effective. And that's going to be at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo coming up in a few weeks, actually in the middle of August. And then what I'm going to be doing is visiting these two lovely ladies for a book signing for The Real Brass Ring.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's coming up on September 12th. It will be at 1 o'clock at Elevated Delights Intuitive Center, and that's in Naperville. So
Yes.
I cannot wait to come and see you guys. I am so excited about that.
We're pretty excited, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it will be such a great time to come see you and bring you treats.
Yes, and books. We need books, and also
treats.
books and treats, and for those people out there that are interested in reading this book, that are in Naperville or Chicagoland area, come on over to Elevated Delights on September 12th because Dianne will be here. She'll be signing books.
Yeah.
And
you can buy them. I think the books are they're $20.
They're $20, and we're also going to be going over the shortcuts. We're going to go over the shortcuts for happy living and just give everybody kind of a taste for these very, very, very effective, easy to adopt principles that really help make important shifts in your life.
And they do.
And we're going to go over all those at that book signing.
Yes. And your workshops, too. Your workshops aren't very expensive either. They're pretty reasonable.
They're very reasonable, actually. At the Body, Mind, Spirit Expos, they try to make it so that everybody can come, and so they're $25 in advance through it's bmse.net. So you can buy them in advance through Body, Mind, Spirit Expos, or you can do $30 at the door. And there's a lot of exercises, and we work as a group, we work individually, and we also work in pairs. And this is all within just the 2-hour time frame. So it's an amazing shift that can happen with only this really kind of intense workshop. So I really encourage you, if there's anything you want to work on, anything you have to reboot, or if you ever just stand somewhere in the middle of years like I did and say, I can't believe this is my life. How did I get here? But where do I want to go?
Yeah.
Then you'll love this workshop. This would be absolutely perfect.
Cool. And that's in Skokie, right? The performing.
Yes, it's in Skokie at the Skokie Performing Arts Center.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get to. We've been there. It's
yes, we have.
Nice place.
Yes, it is a nice place.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Very nice.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And how can people contact you for sessions?
You can reach me at my website. It's liveyoureverything.com, and we have all kinds of tips. I love to have people, I like to share any kind of products that I find that work. We like to do product reviews. I have quotes, music, meditation, and all different types of information about rebooting your life at any phase, whether you be early in your life and you want to start out with the right path, or if you're in the middle years and you'd like to shift to get a little bit more on track. I have all those different types of things at liveyoureverything.com.
That's cool. I like that, liveyoureverything.com. I've been through the website, and her website's pretty awesome and easy to get around in.
And that's important.
Yes. And where can peeps buy the books besides coming to Elevated Delights on September 12th at 1 o'clock?
Well, they can buy the books there for sure. Yes. And then they're also available on Amazon. Amazon.com. They're available on BarnesandNoble.com, and they're also there's some very quick and easy links on LiveYourEverything.com, and then of course you can find me on Facebook. I would love to connect with you, Dianne Bischoff James on Facebook, and on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, and on Google+. So all of the many ways in which we can connect these days, which I love.
So
I know it's not one source now. There's like five, and 6,
five.
and 7, and I think it's just a great way for us to all just stay connected and stay with each other and stay positive and also help each other. That's what I love about social these days.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We like supporting each other too. We're all for that. We're all for the equal exchange of energy.
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
Completely.
Definitely.
Yes.
So I just want to say thank you, Dianne, for coming on tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for aligning with me on my Porsche.
Yes.
I'm sending all my energy to you. I'm pulling it through you right now.
All right.
And I'd like to thank you so much for having me, and just to share, that the real brass ring, if I could just kind of end with just this thought that what the real brass ring means, just for anyone who's at this point, is that it means that the world is just filled with endless possibilities, and it's for anyone who might feel stuck or depressed or just wants to move forward and create a life that you love. I just want to let you know it is totally possible, and the mid-years can be absolutely 1,000% the best years of your life, because that's what has been for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on,
Thank
Dianne.
you for coming on.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you in a month or something like that. So, good night.
Okay, thanks,
you,
ladies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
So.